Welcome to Colonie TV, the governmental educational channel for the town of Colonie.
My name's Dean. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and this is Inside Addiction. My guest and co-host today is Jay. Jay, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Jay, we're going to continue our 12 Steps in 12 Months series, and first I want to review the first 5 steps from our previous episode. So, step 1, we admitted we are powerless over alcohol, drugs, whatever the particular addiction is, and that our life has become unmanageable. To me, this first step is about honesty. I know for myself and other people, after years of denial, recovery can begin when one simple admission of being powerless over alcohol or drugs to ourselves, to our family, and to our friends. So to me, the first step is really about honesty, and that, denial only works for a while. And we move on to step 2. Step 2 is came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. To me, step 2 is really a leap of faith. It seems to be a spiritual truth. We've all heard the analogy of there's no chemical solution for a spiritual problem, that before a higher power can begin to operate, we must actually first believe that it can and believe in a higher power. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step 3 to me is really about surrender. A lifetime of the self-will run riot can come to a screeching halt and change forever by making a simple decision to turn it all over to a higher power. Step 4, making a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 4 to me is really about that deep soul searching. There's a saying in the rooms and in 12-step programs that recovery is a process and not an event. The same can be said for step 4. More will be revealed. On the previous episode of the 12 Steps in 12 Months, we wind things down with step 5, admitting to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And to me, step 5 is all about integrity. Probably the most difficult of all steps that we face. Step 5 is also the one that provides the greatest opportunity for growth as far as I'm concerned. So today we're going to wrap up the 12 Steps in 12 Months series with steps 6 through 12. So we're going to move on, Jay, with step 6, which is we're entirely ready to have God remove all of our defects of character. And step 6 to me is really about acceptance. The key to step 6 is acceptance, accepting character defects exactly as they are and becoming entirely willing to let them go. So Jay, let's talk about step 6 for a minute. What is a character defect?
It's a personality trait or behavior pattern, a habit, some behavior that I've continued to do, and it affects my life in a negative manner, and it either in the way that I'm viewed by others or the way that I view myself, and it can have consequences.
What are some examples of character defects?
Lying, stealing, being disloyal to your partner, stepping outside of relationships. The integrity that you spoke about is key in recovery, because these are, if we're not aware of the behaviors, if we're not looking at ourselves from a disciplined point of view, no one has to tell me what to do. I already know what to do.
Yeah.
If I'm not disciplining myself, and at this point I haven't gotten there yet, I needed to be able to be honest enough to look at and see what it was that I needed to change.
So Jay, why would we, because that sounds pretty hard, and I know it was hard for me, to really look in the mirror, so to say, and why would we want to remove some of the character defects? I remember after a period of initial sobriety for myself and beginning my recovery process, thinking and looking at myself saying, ooh, I really got some things I need to look at, because at that point, I could no longer blame my drug and alcohol use on other behaviors. So I could no longer go around and I could no longer say, when people would confront me days, weeks, months, even years after, and say, hey, you remember when you did that, Dean? And, you know, initially I wanted to pull the card, oh, I was effed up. I was on drugs. Well, after a period of abstinence, and when you're still engaging in the same behaviors you were, and it's kind of like, for me, I call it coke-free Dean. You know, I'm no longer doing drugs, but I was still displaying some of the behaviors of myself actively using. So what is the importance of really looking at the character defects and have a willingness? Because I know one thing for sure, no one likes to be told, you know, so to say, what's wrong with them. Like when we hear that, you know, hey, Jay, you know what your problem is, you know what's wrong with you. And identifying our own character defects really gives us ourselves an opportunity to kind of ourselves be invested in it. And it takes the sting out of it a little bit, as far as I'm concerned, because who wants to hear from somebody else, you know, all the wrongs. Right. So what's the importance really of identifying character defects to really initiate that recovery, because recovery is more than abstinence?
Right. The only step that talks about alcohol or drugs is the first one. The rest talk about making internal changes. When we start looking at what it is that we need to change, the reason that we speak to someone else is so that they can point out what we can't see. My knowledge is limited to my experience and what I've been told.
Yeah, we see what we want to see.
Yeah, a lot of times. And once I start to look at it through the eyes of the program, I start to understand that I need to change what it is that I did so that I don't return to what I did, I'm used to doing. My actions are a big part of my addiction. It wasn't just the drug use, it wasn't just the alcoholism.
The lifestyle.
It was the lifestyle. And some of those behaviors contribute to the idea of relapse. If I'm still engaging in the same war stories, and if I'm still actively involved in the same with the same people, then I'm really on my way backwards rather than moving forward. You know, some people I love and I care about, but I've outgrown them. And if I don't actively understand that, then I may follow someone else's suggestion, but if I don't believe it and understand why, then I probably will return to it. And once I return to one thing, then one thing leads to another. And I'd prefer it to be in a positive way than a negative way. So I tried to affiliate myself with people that were involved in the program and that had more and better recovery than I did.
Yeah.
I was trying to emulate those that I saw that were doing the things that I wanted to do. And that was part of change, because I didn't know what to change at first. I did a lot of work, and I talked about everything that I thought was relevant, but I needed to see it in others and what it was that was wrong with me. So I had to be myself, and it was there were times it was embarrassing because I saw things that were glaring deficiencies, and then I saw things that were more subtle, but I was able to see those things because I was conscientiously looking for them.
I love it. Let's talk about step 7. Humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. To me, step 7 is really about humility. The spiritual focus of step 7 is humility, asking a higher power to do something that we truly cannot do ourselves under our own self-will or mere determination. So humility and being humble, what does that mean to you?
It means putting my pride to the side and not feeling like I'm better than.
Yeah.
Which was easy because I had sunk to such a low point in my life that I believed that I wasn't as good as. And I realized that in order for me to get better, I needed not to allow my pride to stop me from doing the things that would bring me the blessings that I was asking for.
Yeah, we got to eat a little humble pie.
Yeah. So being humble doesn't necessarily connotate humiliation. I'm not being humiliated if I don't look at it that way. You know, but a lot of times my ego will tell me that I can't do these things. I can't allow you to tell me what to do because I'm a man and I'm supposed to know what to do. But if I knew what to do, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be sitting in this seat asking for help. I've never gone to a doctor and told the doctor how to fix my broken leg. You know, I go to the doctor and I let the doctor do what the doctor does.
Let him do his thing.
So when I go into a room full of people that have quality and substantial recovery, why am I questioning their methods instead of just giving all of myself to it so that I can get some of the benefits that they have?
Yeah. So the concept of removing shortcomings, what exactly are shortcomings and what are some examples of shortcomings?
When we think of shortcomings, it's my idea of myself,
My own image,
my own self-image.
how I see me.
And I have never seen me as a failure until the drugs and alcohol took effect. And
Yeah.
I started to miss birthdays and miss appointments and arrive late or not at all. And I was not able to sustain a lifestyle that was the lifestyle that I dreamed that I would be living at that age. I thought that I'd be successful in vacationing and, you know, jet skiing.
I should be doing this, that, and this.
And I was doing none of those things. And I was not the person that I wanted to be on any level. The shortcoming was not limited to just my behaviors. It was limited, it infiltrated every aspect of my life. Nothing that I thought I would be was I at that point. And the shortcoming that I would define most of all is that I did not have the same motivation to get up and go and do things, except when the phone rang and it was somebody telling me they had some drugs or if they had alcohol. And that's a shortcoming in itself, because I probably had just said I'm not using anymore because of some tragedy that I created in my life at that time.
Jay, let's talk about step 8 and let's take a little time with this one. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 8 to me is about willingness. Making a list of those we harmed before coming into recovery may sound simple. Becoming willing to actually make those amends is the more difficult part. All persons, this doesn't mean we pick and choose.
No.
You know, all persons. The word willing to make amends is a key also, isn't it? That, you know, there's an acronym regarding recovery known as HOW, which stands for honest, open, and willing. What about people that we can't make amends to? For example, if they've passed away or we don't know where they are anymore. So let's take some time and really talk about, you know, making the list of people we've harmed, not minimizing the things we've done, and becoming willing to make amends to those people.
What I've usually told groups that I work with or individuals that I work with, or even in one-on-one sponsor situations where I've had sponsees and we've gotten to this point, what I usually tell them is my experience with it so that there's an understanding. My list came from my 4th step because there were things that...
The soul searching.
The soul searching. Whenever I made a mistake, it usually involved other people, and it was somebody that I hurt. And being willing to not look at what they did to me, but what I did, my wrong.
I've heard an expression, you know, don't turn making amends into making excuses.
Right, because I started looking at what they did and justifying how I handled it. Someone did me this way, so I did them that way.
Tit for tat.
And recovery is all about cleaning my side of the street. It's all about being at peace with my actions now. And if there was something that I did wrong, I need to correct that. And I need to acknowledge it. I need to be able, once again, be honest and willing to look at the things that I did wrong, no matter how justified I may have felt at the time.
Wrong is wrong.
20/20 vision is the best. And that, after having lived a little bit more than I had lived at that time, having more experience, I'm able to see better. And I'm able to see the wrong in what I did. And if I'm able to do that, then I'm able to make that list. And I should be able to make it accurately without withholding anything.
So step 9 takes us into made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Now, step 9 to me is all about forgiveness. Making amends may seem like a bitter pill to swallow, but for those serious about recovery, it can be a great medicine for the spirit and the soul. And I want to talk about step 9 because, in my opinion, this step is often underlooked. In particular, the second half of this step except when to do so would injure them or others. And I think the key word here is them. In this step, that also includes ourselves as far as I'm concerned. For example, if you go to make amends to somebody and they're just ain't trying to hear it, are you emotionally prepared to not get the acceptance of the apology? Or is that going to put you in a downward spiral? You know, we're so concerned about, you know, everyone else. How's it going to affect us when we go to apologize to somebody and we've already apologized 10, 20, 100 times and they're like, you know what?
It ain't going to happen.
I ain't trying to hear it.
Right.
And then what? And then do you use that as a reason or excuse or whatever word you want to use to go out and relapse because, you know, I tried making amends to somebody and they said, you know, go pound rock salt or worse. And then, oh, I feel bad for myself. I'm on the pity pot and I'm going to go use.
It really depends on the mindset of the individual and what they're trying to get out of being in recovery. I often say that desperation was a blessing for me and those that have felt it. And watching other people's experience with going through the steps made it was just too important for me to return to anything. There was no excuse at that time. When I looked the person in their eye and I told them what I did, and I told them that I was sorry, and I asked them to forgive me, it was an experience that I would never change, but I did not want to go through again.
Now, let me ask you, though, when you do that, you have the ability to be detached from the outcome and literally let it go after you apologize.
If you're looking at it through that perspective and are prepared for it, there are some people that are attached to what they're feeling. And, you know, it takes time to get to the point where we think before we react.
And then we make a bad situation worse.
We make a bad situation worse where I'm already pushing it by coming up to you and telling you that I'm sorry again.
Yeah.
Or having expectations, because that's premeditated resentment.
You got it, yeah.
I'm setting myself up to be angry. And, you know, what am I thinking if I'm already aware that you're not really trying to...
You're going into it with a certain mindset.
Yeah, so there has to be a clarity of thought before going into that. What are my intentions? Am I intending to go through this thing the right way, or am I looking for a way out?
Yeah.
Because it's starting to get a little heavy.
Let me talk to you a little bit about, you know, my experience in working with some people that, in particular, were perpetrators of domestic violence, and then their desire and willingness to make amends to their victim. Now, again, this is another part of, except when to do so would injure
them or others.
So I believe that even with the best intentions that we may have, especially when we do the soul searching, and we really look at some of the dark things that addiction brings us to, there's certain circumstances where it's inappropriate to reach out and make amends to someone because it almost re-victimizes that person. Domestic violence is one of those things where I've worked with guys, and it's like they really want to apologize, and this is a few years later, and it's kind of like, you know, maybe she has finally been able to have some normalcy in her life, and then you pop up
and
want to apologize and rip the scab off or tear the Band-Aid off. You know,
there are certain times that
it's not appropriate.
It's totally inappropriate, and that's when I'm being selfish rather than selfless.
What's it really about? Who's this really about?
Yes,
is it about you, or in that example, is it about her?
And that could be the problem.
And what I've done is, in that particular example, I've said, you know, the best way we can make amends to some people about some situations is never to repeat that again. So you want to make amends to somebody that you were involved in a domestic violence situation with, never put your hands on another woman. You're making amends to her and every other one.
But then there are people that would take what you say and run with it, and it doesn't apply.
Yeah.
Like the person who believes that, well, I stole from people and I can't pay them back, so what I'll do is I just won't steal again. Meanwhile, they have a house full of electronics, and there's someone who they know and who knows that they stole from them that they have refused to pay back.
A little different.
Yeah, that's a little bit different, because, you know, that lady is not going to be able to feel good about you being sober while she still doesn't have her DVD player. You know, if you have the ability to return stuff, you should.
Absolutely.
the most powerful thing that I got out of that entire amends thing was the pain in my daughter's eyes, and at the same time there was hope, and I hadn't seen that before. So there was a desire to never go through that again. I don't ever want to hurt anyone again, because I never want to see what I'm experiencing now. Though I wouldn't change it, I don't want to repeat it.
Yeah. Step 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. To me, step 10 is really about the maintenance of recovery and right living. Nobody likes to admit to be wrong, but it's absolutely necessary to maintain spiritual progress in recovery. So step 10, to me, this is about giving yourself kind of a checkup from the neck up on a regular basis, admitting when you're wrong, and maybe take some time each night before bed and reflect on the day. Why is it important to continue this process? And there's not a finish line for recovery. There's not a finish line for self-improvement, and there's not a finish line for taking a personal inventory. And when we're wrong, admitting we're wrong, even beyond those, making amends. Why is that so important?
This isn't just an AA or NA or 12-step thing.
Yeah.
This is actually a spiritual thing. This is actually something that I've seen a lot of people do that have nothing to do with any of these programs. This is just a self-help and awareness thing.
I love it. That's why I say, you know, I've come to believe that everybody could benefit from a 12-step program.
Absolutely.
Alcohol, drug-free, whatever.
Absolutely. Part of growth and development is being aware of what I've done. And if I've made a mistake, saying, wow, I need to correct that. And
Learn
then
from
correcting it. Because correction is where we learn. If I don't say anything about it and I got away with it, and I don't do anything to make it better, then I'll probably do the same thing next time.
I love that. It makes me think of one of my favorite quotes. When you fail to learn from a mistake, you've then made two.
Absolutely right.
That's great. Step 11 is sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, again, as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. Step 11 to me is about making contact. The purpose of step 11 is to discover the plan God has for us and to understand him in our life. And that's unique. So step 11, again, we see the phrase God in particular as we understood him. Prayer doesn't have to be in a church. It's just a conversation with you and God. You know, I know for me, I feel as though I have a pretty good relationship with my higher power, and we're constantly talking back and forth. It's like, you know, texting and, you know, talking to your friend back and forth all day, bouncing stuff back and forth. And as far as the meditation, it really gives us an opportunity to deprogram our mind in knowledge of his will for us. Remember, you know, our will gets in our own way. So talk to me about, you know, prayer and meditation, your experience, and what kind of advice you would have for someone that kind of gets scared away by certain words, you know, like God, prayer. What's been your experience? How's that been?
I was raised to know God in a certain way.
Yeah.
And I had to find my own way and my own experience. And what I did was, instead of praying like as if I was praying in the church or amongst the congregation, someone asked me to imagine what it would be like if I could create God and he would have the characteristics that I would want God to have.
Yeah.
And he said, don't tell me, just think about it.
Yeah.
And once I thought about it, he said, now pray to that. And prayer is nothing more than a conversation. I'm not asking him for anything except what it is that he wants me to do.
Yeah.
And asking for the power to carry it out, because
Guide me.
I sometimes I'm very tired, or I'm afraid, or I'm so stuck in a certain way of doing things, and it's time to change and grow, and I don't want to. And I'm asking him to give me the power to see what I need to do differently, so that I can be of better service to not only to God, but to this world, to the community, to my colleagues.
And that goes right into step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to other addicts, alcoholics, and to practice these principles in all of our affairs.
All of ours.
Step 12, yeah, you got it. I'm with you. Step 12 is about service work for me. For those in recovery programs, practicing 12 steps is simply how it works. Carrying the message, we keep what we have by giving it away. that which was so freely given to us. Reaching out a helping hand, not looking down on anyone unless we're helping them get up. And to me, again, all of our affairs, all of them. Don't pick
Everything.
and choose.
Can't pick and choose when you're going to be honest, when you're going to help somebody, the way that you're going to do things. Step 12 to me is the step that keeps me sober. Because as long as I'm doing the things that I say that I do, if I'm not doing it, then I'm not part of the program anymore. I'm not part of my house anymore. I'm
Doing
not
your
part
own
of
thing again.
Yeah, I'm back to being the person I used to be, and the things that I've achieved no longer belong to me. They belong to the person that does the things that they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I have to do these things, and I understand that. I understand that if people see me doing the opposite of what I say, then they're not going to listen to me.
Where's your integrity?
Their integrity is doing the right thing, whether
Yeah.
people see you doing it or not. Me, I know what I'm doing. And if I become the person that I want to become, then I'm always going to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. If I'm judging me, then you can't. If I say that I'm going to do something, then you can't tell me what to do because I'm already doing it.
Yeah.
And these are the things that I try to instill in those people that are part of what it is that I do.
I love it.
Yeah.
Jay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again, it's a pleasure. Until next time, take it one day at a time. And remember, denial only works for a while.
And it ain't a river in Egypt.
Welcome to Colonie TV, the governmental educational channel for the town of Colonie.